When it comes to Arbitrum's native token called ARB, which is spelled ARB, there's three different hypothetical price scenarios that I have on my mind and that I want to explore in an event where maybe let's say there's hypothetically even an altcoin season during this cycle. Only time will tell, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, what is the first scenario that I do want to explore? That is maybe the idea of $3. Now, that would be nearly a 7x from here, and the market cap at that point would be around 16 billion if we were to consider, let's say, the current circulating supply. Now, why wouldn't this necessarily surprise me when it comes to, again, Arbitrum's native token called ARB? It's because I like the fundamentals of Arbitrum, and let me explain what I mean by that. Arbitrum, quite simply put, the way you take a look at it, is an Ethereum layer 2. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, who cares about that? There's so many Ethereum layer 2s out there. Totally aware of that. But I think Arbitrum has this presence, I think it has the popularity, and I think it's just very established overall. And what I like about Ethereum is that as a layer 1 blockchain, right, it's very popular, the adoption is already very massive, so it's already kind of this thing that is already proven. So having a layer 2, despite all that, some people may be thinking, okay, why do we need that still if Ethereum is so popular as a layer 1 blockchain? Now let me explain. A layer 2 in this case, the way you take a look at it, basically allows Ethereum to be enjoyed, while at the same time, not necessarily having to deal with some of the drawbacks. Now, what are these drawbacks the way you take a look at it? For instance, the sky-high gas fees, which I'm not a fan of, by the way, but I'm just saying. Also on top of that, it's arguable scalability issues when it comes to Ethereum. But then at the same time, again, despite these drawbacks, Ethereum is so massive, right? So then it would be kind of not that good if, let's say, we have this layer 1 blockchain, but then it can't really be enjoyed without having to deal with some of those drawbacks. So again, arguably, I think that is where something like, an Ethereum layer 2 does step in. Again, basically allowing Ethereum to be enjoyed without having to deal with, some of the drawbacks I mentioned before. Now again, Arbitrum, it has a lot of competition. Like for instance, there's Optimism, there's Miria. There's just a bunch, right? But then the way you take a look at it is that again, when it comes to ARB, it's not doing too bad. The market cap is currently around 2 billion. And this is not even considering there's a altcoin season during this cycle, and that's also considering as well the big pullback that we've seen when it comes to ARB, relatively speaking. And it's still holding up pretty okay, in my opinion. So I still like the presence when it comes to ARB, and I think also when it comes to Ethereum, there is that Ethereum ETF aspect, right? And then I do like that whole vibe overall. Now, granted, when it comes to some people out there, they may be thinking, oh, but take a look at Ethereum. It hasn't even reached $5,000 yet and all this. Totally aware of that, but it's still pretty impressive what Ethereum did so far. And again, I don't think we've seen an altcoin season during this cycle. So even despite the popularity of the Ethereum ETF, if let's say there was, a full-on type of altcoin season, and Ethereum maybe did well, and let's say, some of these Ethereum layer 2s went along with the ride, I wouldn't be surprised if Arbitrum was one of them, because again, even Arbitrum right now is still pretty massive, and Ethereum again is a proven layer 1 blockchain. So overall, I do like the vibe when it comes to Arbitrum. Now granted, it's not the biggest project out there, but I still like it nonetheless. I like the presence, I like the popularity, relatively speaking. Again, it's not the most popular, but I like it for what it is. And I like how the project hasn't given up. Sometimes I see some other projects out there, I feel like they just kind of gave up, and maybe it's because, the market isn't necessarily doing the best, or let's say, just things maybe are not necessarily doing the best overall, right? But then when it comes to Arbitrum, they just keep on, it seems like to me, just pushing forward. So I do like seeing that. I like seeing a project that doesn't give up. And again, I'm a fan of Arbitrum, but only time will tell. And maybe seeing its native token called ARB, hypothetically at the price of $3, in an event where there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. However, the second scenario I want to take a look at is maybe the idea of $4 when it comes to ARB, which again is Arbitrum's native token. It would be around a 9x from here, and the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, it would be around 21.5 billion. Now, the way you take a look at it is this. To me, this market cap doesn't seem that ridiculous, especially when I consider, how Ethereum even currently has a market cap that is, around $500 billion. Not to mention, I've seen Dogecoin reach over $80 billion in market cap back in 2021, and I've also seen that year Shiba Inu reach around $40 billion. Like this again, for one of the most popular Ethereum layer 2s out there, it doesn't seem like such a maybe hypothetically tough task for its native token called ARB in an event where, again, there is a fully fledged type of altcoin season. But again, this is just my perspective. Only time will tell. Now, the third and final hypothetical price scenario that I do want to discuss is maybe the idea of $5 when it comes to ARB. That would be nearly an 11.5x from here, and the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, it'd be around 27 billion. Now, to me, what factors do I like during this cycle? Again, the popularity of the Ethereum ETF, which I think, just naturally, right? Because again, Arbitrum is an Ethereum layer 2. I think that is also maybe hypothetically indirectly helping it as well. And also on top of that, I do take a look at the Bitcoin ETF. And also furthermore, right? What I find very impressive currently is that even though the 2021 altcoin season to me looked very impressive, actually at the peak of that bull run that year, there was around 300 million crypto owners, which again, granted at that time was very impressive. But right now, without seeing a full-on type of altcoin season during the cycle, hypothetically maybe yet, and also having not seen Ethereum at 10 grand or even Bitcoin at 150 or 200 or 250 or 300 grand or something like that, even still despite that, there's over 600 million crypto owners currently, again, pretty much double when compared to the, 2021 bull run at the peak of it, I should say. And then supposedly this is more than ever before in history. And not only that, again, we're seeing this right now, again, just like I mentioned before, without really seeing like an altcoin season and all this. So I find that very impressive. But again, this is just the way you take a look at it. If this altcoin season, if it ever even were to happen, if it looked better than back in 2021, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. But this is just my mindset. However, ultimately, there's one thing I can do, and I think that is just stay patient, because whenever the altcoin season ever even wants to decide to happen during the cycle, be it maybe in October, or let's say it waits until January, February, or March of 2026, whenever that timeline is, it's beyond my control. Like, even if I pulled up a price chart, let's say, right, and I drew a falling wedge pattern, I drew like a triangle or something like that, the market's not going to care about that. I can, again, just pull up a price chart all day long, the market's still not going to care. So instead, I'd rather just stay patient, hold, and just wait. That's it. I mean, literally, that's all I'm doing. I'm just staying patient and just waiting for the projects that I'm a fan of. Beyond that, I can't demand the market to do this or do that. All I can do is just stay patient, which is what I'm going to do. I treat it like a marathon. It's not a sprint to me. And again, I'm not telling them to do anything, but this is just my outlook when it comes to Arbitrum. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.